This is Housebound. I'm Chris.
I'm Holly.
I'm Ashlynn.
I'm Greg.
And you're invited. Welcome to Housebound, a podcast we made because we needed company. In it, we talk about things that are on our minds, and today we're going to be talking about customer feedback. But first, welcome back, everybody, to Season 3.
Woohoo! Welcome back, everybody, to Season 3. That's what that sounded like to me.
Oh.
It reminded me of, what's the Jackbox game with the haunted hotel?
Oh,
the
Like Jackpot, the Trivia Murder Party?
Trivia Murder Party was welcome
back.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Welcome to the killing floor.
Welcome to the killing floor. Can you please take your shoes off, though? I really don't want to clean the carpet again.
It was really good. It's exactly what it sounds like.
Yeah.
You could be a murderer. Way to go.
Hey!
One with some sort of mental disability, because that one really is not stable.
Oh, yeah, he's not stable at all. Welcome back. This will now be our second of any of the episodes we've ever marked as explicit, because we're talking explicitly about murder in the first minute and a half of the episode.
No, we're talking about a game where they murder people.
They don't actually murder people. It's a very family-friendly-ish game.
Ish.
I mean, the theme is murder, but they just murder little, stuffed animal people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Every
They're
time
not
I think-
even people, they're
Every time I think we're
animals.
going to move
Sound
on.
better.
Sorry.
Every time. I wasn't planning on talking about murder for the first 2 minutes of this episode, but that's okay.
Of crows.
So today we're going to talk about customer feedback. I was going to say show of hands.
All you hear is like this, like,
Yeah. Let's hear it for the yays if you have worked in or at a retail job.
yay.
Yes.
Yay.
I cannot
Yay.
give it a yay.
Sort of?
Yay
Yeah.
is not the word I would use to describe my time in retail.
Well, that's probably a whole other dark rabbit hole that we can go down in another episode at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Retail.
But yeah, but
People.
Let me tell you a tale about retail. Yeah.
oh, like
You got
slam
it.
poetry
Yeah.
or something?
It just sounds
Like when you're at a campfire
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, we're going to sing this song, and it's
It
a
also had
story
a beat. Like,
song.
let me tell you a tale about retail. On Thursday night, I was closing up the shop.
And then something caused me just to stop.
Nice.
Yep. There was a gun that went
it.
pop, pop, pop.
Oh my gosh! No!
Okay, we're right back to murder
It was
again.
a
We're gonna-
water guide, okay?
Why did it go pop then? Those go splash, splash.
It was a water gun with an identity crisis.
That's not okay for anybody. But something that is very integral to retail, I'm not going to say exclusively, but very important to them, is customer feedback. The probably best example of this is check the bottoms of your receipts next time you walk out of a retail store. And like I'm including, would grocery stores be considered retail stores?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
technically, yeah.
What is the definition of retail?
A place where they sell something to the consumer.
Okay.
It's like a point of sale where the manufacturing facility is not that site.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
So like the deli counter wouldn't be part of the retail because they actually make the slices of meat in the back.
It's still that's
I know
still
they're just
retail,
serving. They're just
though.
serving it up. Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't grow the animal themselves. I would
Correct.
say the manufacturer of the meat is the farmer
Yeah. I was
Or
just
the-
mostly messing
or
around.
the specific cow.
Yes. The specific cow is the producer.
Old Betsy.
But often these notes at the bottom of the receipts, or we even get emails now from things like Nintendo and Cineplex after we've purchased a game or watched a movie that will get us to fill out surveys, and it's always with the promise of receiving something or
Sometimes.
the chance to
There's
win
been multiple
something.
Nintendo surveys I filled out that I got absolutely nothing other than a thank you.
Nothing.
That was a very quiet thank you. I still like Nintendo.
But you would rather get stuff.
I'd rather get stuff.
Yeah.
Give me a free game,
Yeah.
please.
Same. But I've always wondered what the probability of getting those prizes are. And there's a lot of places that will just, usually restaurants or fast food chains, that will reward you with just automatically a free quote unquote upgrade. And I say quote unquote because you usually have to buy the meal first and then they'll upgrade it for free. So, but there's other restaurants, fast food joints that will promise you a free sandwich or a free pop or something like an ice cream when you next order from them. So nothing is generally truly free.
Yeah, it's like on your next order, so long as your next order is in like the next 5 days.
Yeah.
Because a true free upgrade would be, okay, here's like a small cup of what you would have gotten extra, and then here is a small little pack of fries in terms of what extra fries you would have had on your order had you ordered.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Where it's like the upgrade pack.
Well,
free.
or they would have just given you a free regular fries or something like that. They wouldn't have forced you to purchase something and then get the small amount extra in an upgrade. Yes.
That's truly free. But what you're saying is that, well, you have to buy something.
For the most part, you end up having to buy something, and that's just for like restaurants and things like that. Other businesses will just enter you into a draw for the chance to win.
That's such a scam. If you're entered into a draw, like that's not a prize.
No, it's not.
Thanks a lot for the chance to get nothing because there's a million other people in your draw.
There's a pretty high chance to get nothing.
Yeah.
That's very generous of them.
No.
Let's talk about what everybody's like thoughts and feelings are on these surveys in general, because it sounds like we've all kind of done them or at least considered doing them. But do we like them? Do we hate them?
I'm happy to give a survey if it has a purpose. And by that, I mean like
they actually want feedback?
Like for the census? Or
being a
Christmas time?
Being a customer of your city. I understand. Okay.
Being a customer of
I
my
pay
city.
taxes and then every year they give me a census and I
or if it's like something that's clearly going to benefit like people that's not just a company. But I hate giving my time to a survey that's like for Walmart because they just want to know how they can take advantage of me, not how they can make things better for the world.
How does Walmart want to take advantage of you through their surveys?
Because I am a sucker for convenience, and if they can make things more convenient for me, I will shop there more often.
I see.
And that's not always the right choice for the world.
That's why it's called a convenience store.
Yeah. that's what
I actually
North
don't
America.
think that clicked into
Okay,
my head.
sub podcast called Greg Realizing Words.
I mean,
Convenience
it could be an interesting podcast, but
is that the intro to the podcast? It's just every episode starts with Greg having this realization about a new word.
Just
then I just
says
talk
a
about-
word, it goes
It's just a 2-minute
wonderful that
podcast
is. Yeah.
each episode.
yeah.
There we go. I think for myself, when it comes to doing surveys, I don't mind doing them. I think, I have more incentive if there's something in it for me, that it's not just like, thank you for your feedback. We really appreciate it. Have a great day. And then that's it. I'd rather have like, here's some points or here's some whatever. So then at least I feel I've done something for it. Unless it's for something that I really deeply care about, in which case, that's nice to be able to support and give feedback. I think some surveys are too long, though, and they need to be more upfront about how long it's going to take.
That's totally fair.
That's fair.
How long is your ideal survey? I'm assuming you're talking about the online surveys. When I was a kid, we did phone surveys sometimes
You
too.
mean a 30-second survey.
30 seconds, okay. So like
So
maybe
do
five
minute.
questions max,
Sure,
and they have to
that's
be
great.
like a sliding scale of like 1 to 5.
I would probably do more of them if you gave me more of those, but instead you give me 3-minute ones,
That's fair.
or 4, or 5.
That's too long to do when you're sitting on the toilet.
Also, I don't mind getting surveys that tell me cool information. Like, apparently there was a survey that was like, what do you think about would you buy a WarioWare game for Switch that was priced at $49.99? And that was before they had even announced that WarioWare was a thing.
Oh.
So, like, that's cool. I don't mind that. But
But you don't mind that in hindsight.
in hindsight, yeah.
But in the moment, would you have been like, what is this?
Now, I
can't see
probably would have been
myself.
like, ooh, that's a cool idea. They're probably fishing for to see if people are actually interested. So I don't mind that. Yeah.
I usually don't fill out surveys or reviews or anything like that unless it's something that I know doesn't already have a ton of feedback. If it's a company like Walmart or whatever, where
We're just
they
railing
send
on
these
Walmart.
out,
That's the big store that's in our
And
lives.
everyone knows that they do surveys.
yeah,
so.
but they send it
Or
out to
Canadian Tire.
everybody
or
who's ever made a
Yeah.
purchase. Like, I have no interest in
Loblaws.
sending back my feedback. But if it's like a small store in Saskatoon or something new that just came that I want to write a review about, or if it's on Goodreads, let's say, and it's a book that doesn't have a ton of reviews at this point, then I'm happy to add my feedback to the mix, or like a recipe, something like that. But if it already has a ton, then I'm like, I'm just adding noise. No thanks.
I think it really matters for me whether I'm asked to do it or whether I'm prompted by myself to do it. Because if I went to a store that was like new or small or local or something like that, and I really enjoyed my time there, I would like to write them a review because I know how much that could help them, like even just on Facebook or whatever they're on. But I hate it when a game or something stops what I'm doing in order to be like, hey, will you give us a review? And the buttons are like, no,
or later.
Well,
No,
they're
I hate
usually
unicorns.
Like, yeah, no, I hate unicorns is
And I
the one
want to
that
see
I was thinking
babies
of.
cry.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, screw you, I'll hate unicorns then. I'm not giving you a review if you're going to guilt me into it with a mythical creature. Like, what are you talking about? Makes me mad. So then I for sure will never give them a review. They have lost my reviewing.
So we kind of like navigated from talking about reviews or surveys on the bottom of a receipt for like big corporations to like online reviews. So less about surveys and more about reviews for like Google or Facebook or some site online like Goodreads or something that isn't a physical maybe store location. Or I guess that wouldn't even be a business. That would just be the individual books themselves you'd be reviewing. And so we kind of think of those two kind of interchangeably is what I've kind of gathered from the
They're all
last
customer feedback.
little bit of discussion. And so when you're approaching reviews online or whatever, or surveys, customer feedback kind of situation, whether it's entering a contest or not as a reward for that, what do you have any like particular etiquette for when you're filling out those surveys? Because I know there's a lot of open form boxes that happen on those surveys, not all the time, but quite often. Do you usually skip through those? Do you just put like a smash of letters from your keyboard to be able to move on? Do you put NA? Do you actually have a constructive comment to put in them, or is that mostly where
if I have
Ray
a short
tunes out
opinion, I
because-
will put it in. If I do not care and I'm just trying to get through this, I will leave that blank.
Okay, that's
Hit next.
yeah, that's fair.
fair.
I've noticed that a lot of them do let you skip
It
through.
just takes too much effort.
So then you're definitely doing the survey in those moments for whatever
For the prize.
prize or potential award or
Or the message
winning.
that says thank you. Have a great day.
That's
okay.
the reward.
Greg just needs a little bit more affirmation in his life is what we're getting from this.
That is one of my love languages. I found out.
That sounds like an Ashlynn
5,
problem.
What is it? Workplace something or another? It's the
What
5
are you
love
talking about?
languages.
The 5
but for
languages
the
of
workplace.
appreciation in
Oh,
the
there we go.
workplace.
Wait, say that again
You
into the
can't
mic.
say love.
The 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace. The 5 languages of appreciation in the workplace.
They can't say
I
love
see.
because it's in the workplace. So
And that would be weird.
that would be very weird.
Yeah.
So that has to be
Yeah, it's just the 5 languages, but it's actually just 4 because they took out physical touch.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The 4 love language, the 4
The 4
appreciation languages of the
It
workplace.
still
Languages of
says
appreciation.
5, but they have
Does
like
it?
the world's shortest chapter on
Oh.
physical touch, with the author being like, I still think that there are appropriate sources of physical touch in the workplace, but because there's so many inappropriate sources, we're just gonna skip this one.
Dedicated a whole chapter to that. My book has 5 chapters. It sounds like somebody trying to like text font 14 size their essay when it's supposed to be 11 or 12. Oh, I just filling it out a little bit more. That's all.
So affirmation, and you look for that affirmation at the end of surveys.
No. I look for it in other people. So please give me your feedback.
rate and
been a
review
tough
this
day.
podcast.
We rate podcasts.
We rate Greg.
Oh yeah.
A new podcast. We rate Greg. Come back here to wherever you're listening to this podcast. Immediately following this episode, we will have a short bonus episode every episode we release this season. So probably the 2022 season. It'll be like 5 seconds long. We're each just gonna, and by each I mean everybody here but Greg, is just gonna rattle off a rating of 1 to 5 how we thought he did that episode.
5 seconds? That's it?
Well, it just has to be 30 seconds
It's
or
just
less.
our rating of you.
Has to be a really short survey, Greg.
Super shallow. I want the
It's
text
just
box.
a number. That's what they want from you, but you won't give them the time.
No. But y'all give me the time, right?
Most of the time.
We're here
maybe.
doing this with you, Greg,
Okay.
You're doing wonderfully, Greg.
Thank you.
as if this is a vanity project.
Well, podcast, it's really hard.
Well, my least favorite thing about Greg
Yeah.
is,
All right.
I could get dangerous so fast.
is that Greg loves, highly esteems the opinions of reviews online.
Oh yeah, I do.
Oh
Oh,
my
That's
gosh.
true.
If
Yeah,
I have
okay.
ever heard Greg introduce any book, movie, or TV show, or game, or any like popular media product, this is how it goes. Oh, guys, you should check out insert name of product here. It has really great reviews. That's always always
Online.
on insert either Rotten Tomatoes or Metacritic.
Oh,
Ah,
like
Yeah.
those
And I
sites
was like-
exist for that reason, though.
do you know that like maybe you could just like have your own opinion about it?
Yeah. Do you know you could actually be your own person? Do
It
you
doesn't
have to follow the
be.
masses?
It doesn't have to be the reviewers of
I
whoever
love-
that
Maybe he
is.
reads those sites to like pick all the things that are like outliers, so that he can be original and hipstery about it. And
He's
like,
not though. He just
Just kidding. He's not original.
Greg is
I
a
love-
Greg
Greg
is as
flow.
basic and white as they come.
I mean, have
love-
you seen him? He's pretty
Whoa, whoa,
pale. Love the guy.
So I love being swayed by the masses. It's true. If I'm hearing about a
He
movie
admits it.
that like I love to get swept up in the hype of like this was a
Sweeped
great
up.
movie or this is a great game or whatever.
But what if it's the opposite? And it's actually, so I've been to a few movies where
Uh-huh.
the masses are like,
Oh yeah.
oh, this was
And then they hype
terrible
it
and
up
I
too much.
hated it, and you go in thinking it's going to be terrible and you hate it, or that you're going to hate it, or you don't go and see it at all because someone on the online had an opinion, and when you actually do see it, you're like, I actually really enjoyed this. Like, doesn't that mar your experience going in expecting so much
I think it's only marred it
disappointment?
once, and I've been good so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mars my experience. I'd rather not know, really.
I
What
feel
My-
like I
my-
can't go
what
into a
people
movie
think.
nowadays without knowing at least a little bit about it.
Yeah,
as
about
much
how
as
well
I
it was
try,
received or
try
whatever.
whether what the content is or about how well received or
Yeah.
not it was. And so I've just kind of resigned myself to that. And
Ooh.
so I try not to think about it too much. But yeah, it probably influences it a lot more.
It
than I
helps
hope
most
it does.
when I'm about to go into a movie that I don't really want to see, but I look online and I see, hey, it has positive reviews, and then I read the positive reviews. I'm like, okay, and then I look for those positive.
You
things
let
in
you
the
let them
movie and I
talk you
enjoy it
into the
more.
movie.
Yeah,
So, why are you going to a movie you don't want to see?
Somebody else wants to.
yeah,
go to
somebody
it.
else wants to go, or
Who will rename unnamed?
It's not usually me.
Yeah, you
It's
guys
not
usually like
usually-
the same movies.
there's some artistic movies. That, okay, but yeah,
That's fair. I've done that.
yeah,
Okay.
right, yeah.
My least favorite thing is when there's a movie that has great reviews or game or whatever that has great reviews that I just didn't like. And I was like, you know what? It's not my thing. I'm not the target audience for it. I get it. And then Greg over here, Mr. Lover of the Reviews, Mr. Synonymous Profile with the reviews, says like, but it has great reviews. And I was like, that does not mean that it is great. I am my own person with my own horizons. And I can make my own opinion.
Yes.
Agreed.
Like, I didn't like... What
Spider-Man.
Yeah, I didn't like the latest Spider-Man.
No Way Home.
Yeah,
Really?
Wasn't a fan.
Okay, but you also...
No
I'm not saying that this is a preface of the fact in the sense of that this explains why you didn't like it. I'm just saying for those of the listeners that don't know this, you're also not like a huge Marvel action lover in the first place.
But you have enjoyed other Spider-Man movies.
I have seen so many of these movies at this
There
point.
have been many Spider-Man movies, to be fair.
I should have, like, I catch all of the tropes at this point because
Well, sure.
I've seen so many of the movies.
It's just insert hero here.
Exactly.
Find and replace.
And so
right?
I knew it had, like, Greg told me it had great reviews. And I went into it and I just didn't love it. And then I hate that feeling of like, well, your opinion isn't the same opinion as that of the masses. And so it's invalid. And
It's
the
not
true
even-
opinion
Well-
is the majority opinion.
Yeah.
Well,
It's not even
it's all
masses. It's
opinions,
like several
right?
hundred
So there's-
people that have decided to
But
critique
can I
it
at least
online, and
crawl
that's
out of
about
this
it.
hole that you dug me into
Yeah,
and
try.
say,
try it. I'd like to see it.
well, I'd just say that's more of a conversational piece and not at all a statement on the discredibility of your opinion.
What is more of a conversation?
conversation.
Oh,
Conversational
just
piece.
be like, oh, that's interesting. You didn't like this movie. Most people did.
Oh, I see. In the moment.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. That's and that's
Not an argument.
Yeah, that's
No.
totally fair. That's just an observation. I have definitely done that myself. I've even done that with myself and been like, couldn't really, like, I've only watched it once, but I wasn't left amazed at Interstellar enough to go and watch it any more than the one time in theaters. And people love that movie. And I love
own it.
lots of Christopher Nolan
Good
movies and
music
lots
in
of his
that
older
movie.
stuff. Like, it's not just the newer things. It's not just I've seen Inception and I love that and I've seen every Oh, that seems pretty. One of those guys that like references every movie. It was after that one that he's seen. Oh, it's pretty Wes Anderson-y with the coloring there. And it's like, yeah, because he used coloring. Like, you're not. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But I just couldn't get into it. So I've done it to myself. I've felt on the other side of that fence.
I fall on the opposite side of reviews all the time, mostly because I'm happy to be taken in by maybe some crappier tropes than I think people online are, like Suicide Squad. I really enjoy that movie, probably because I'm a huge sucker for heroes or anti-heroes that like just needs a little bit of work done.
Yeah.
Sorry, the Suicide Squad or Suicide Squad?
The first one that everyone hated.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. We own it
We
because
do.
I like it.
It does have 26% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I know. Everyone hated it so much. And I can see,
Although-
like, objectively, when you look at the plot and all of those things
Yeah.
Right.
that are wrong with it. And I'm still like, I will sit down and watch it, whoever wants to watch it with me.
Although audience score has it at 59. So that's not bad.
So
There's
people
a-
enjoyed it even though it was bad.
Yeah. There's another podcast that me and Ashlynn listen to called The Relevant Podcast. And one of the hosts there talks about how like 60% is like his sweet spot for like a Rotten Tomatoes movie where he's like, I want to watch this movie because it was so divided that like there's probably some really interesting stuff in it.
So he just likes to come to his own conclusions.
Yeah.
So he just likes to be
That's
right in
fun.
the middle of those. That's interesting.
Yeah, I sometimes take it a little bit personally when there's something that has terrible reviews, but I loved it. I went and saw the movie Dear Evan Hansen with a coworker of
Oh, yeah.
mine.
I haven't seen it yet.
Originally a Broadway musical,
Yeah.
and that they
With
made
a lead
a movie.
actor of the same.
Yeah, and I know it had terrible reviews going
30%
into it,
on Rotten Tomatoes.
and I loved it. They did a fantastic job of all of the songs. There was so much emotion in there. I bawled my way through most of the movie. It just wrung me dry. I was dehydrated by the end. But it was really good, and I enjoyed it, and it was a fun movie to watch.
88% of audiences agree with you.
8%?
See, but that's
100% of
88%.
Ashlyn's agree with me.
But see, that's the difference between like
all that matters.
critical
Critics,
reviews and audience reviews, right? Is that it doesn't matter if maybe someone thought that technically the plot was bad or something like that, because if 88% of the audience seeing it enjoyed themselves, then the movie was successful.
And mostly what I heard from that one in particular was that what people didn't love about it was that they kept the same actor, who's Ben Platt, who's not in high school anymore.
Yeah,
because
get
that's
over
the
it.
first time there's ever been a high school character
breaking
played
news.
by somebody in their 20s. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a novel idea. And his voice is phenomenal, and his acting is great.
Well, and he's the original cast.
was awesome.
for it too. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a difference between watching a movie, I imagine, or also reading a book for the quality of the content as compared to for the entertainment or enjoyment of it. So like you can read books that are young adult novels or even teen novels that you just really, really enjoy, even if you're not a young adult or a teen anymore, and it feels like you're maybe going below your fashion. But I mean, if that's what you're into, then that's what you're into.
But the thing is, sometimes it is enjoyable and quality, but it gets terrible reviews because the masses fixate on something really not important, but make it super important. And so everybody gives it terrible reviews for whatever that like specific thing about it was that like ticked everybody off. And so they all gave it bad reviews.
So what I'm understanding, if I'm understanding correctly, is that sometimes we put a little bit too much faith, or we lean a little bit too hard into what we think everybody is saying based on a few hundred reviews that we've seen online for something, when there are hundreds of thousands of people that have consumed this content or might consume in the future, because it might just be a select group of people that were allowed to preview this and write reviews and stuff about that. Do you feel the same way when you maybe shop on Amazon and you look at reviews for products? Like, do you put the same kind of leverage on those reviews? Or what about business reviews on something like Facebook or Google? And they change the way that they measure the metrics of those from 1 to 5 on a sliding scale to now it's just reviewed or not reviewed with like a star or something. But like, do you take the same kind of consideration into those? Do you feel like if the majority didn't like this product or this business, I'm also not to like it? Or Ashlynn, maybe you feel like that doesn't matter at all and you'll just go and try it regardless. Or maybe Holly doesn't even look at the reviews and just buys the thing that's the cheapest on Amazon, you know?
That's crazy. That's crazy. I could never.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. I guess I never spoke for myself in regards to really movies and how much leverage I put into reviews and stuff like that. And I think the simplest answer is I don't really dabble in that much at all. I buy movies from the store and they have the little certified fresh tomato sticker on it. And I look at that and I'm like, huh, who knew? Because I didn't.
But you still might like, after watching a movie, that you're kind of like, I don't know what to think about this. You might like read other people's thoughts on it, and that might still impact how you then perceive the movie, right?
Yeah, okay, that's fair. After I've consumed content, I definitely have gone and read up on it in the past, and especially if I've been unsure as to what it was that I just consumed.
What
like,
was this?
Like, did I enjoy this or didn't I?
Star Wars Episode 9?
Maybe I'll let everybody else tell me, or maybe I'll just let them say things and then I'll poke holes in it and go, no, I definitely enjoyed it because I enjoyed it enough to poke a hole in their argument, you know?
Right.
Yeah, in regards to other kinds, online businesses, online sales.
I think for myself, it really depends on what the reviews for like a product, what the reviews are. Because sometimes you can kind of tell that they had unrealistic expectations of
Okay.
what
Yes.
this $15
Yeah.
item was going to do to their entire life.
Yes.
So do you look at the reviews and go a couple of the 5-star, a couple of the 4, and then 1 or 2 of the 1s or 2s just to see what their gripes
Okay,
were? Or?
this is my strategy for Amazon
okay.
reviews.
All right.
Break it down for us.
Strategy.
Generally, I look for the items that are most reviewed and not necessarily highest reviewed because
Okay.
those have been like most popularly picked. So they
Right.
might have like been cheaper in the past or something like that, or
Sure.
maybe cheaper in the present. And then when I search for reviews, I generally do like a quick scroll, but it always like kind of tries to sway your opinion with what the first few reviews are.
Oh, yeah.
So I try as much as possible to filter by photo and video added, most recent.
Okay.
Because if you added a photo or video, generally you tried to do a more in-depth review than
Mhm.
just like, loved it, gave it to my niece. And I was like,
Mhm.
so you never tried it. Just to clarify, you
Mhm.
never used this product. You're just rating it anyways. That's
and
beef.
then why are you rating it
Exactly.
in the first place?
So if they added a photo or video, generally that means it's more in depth. And then if you sort by most recent, then it won't necessarily try to sway your opinion by giving you all of the 5-star ones up front and saying that they're the most helpful reviewed by Amazon or whatever, which is definitely just trying to give you the 5-star ones up front. That's my strategy, to try to get like an even opinion. And then sometimes you have people who just have unrealistic expectations of the product, and you can usually see that and be like, I'm not expecting this to change my life and
Mhm.
do all of these fancy things. It's $15 and this seems like it's meeting my expectations based on even the negative reviews.
Yeah, and I guess the one thing that I think of when I see, if you are filtering by those photos and videos, is that generally the people that are really angry about something or have a beef with something or a negative review are more likely to leave reviews than people that are happy with something. Because if they're happy with it, they just kind of move on with their
Yeah.
lives. And so if you filter by the people that have actually put effort into the review, likely it'll be a better mix of people that are pleased enough to say, this is what I loved about it. And I often find a lot of helpful reviews in like the 4-star reviews, because those are people that love it mostly and then say, if there's one thing to fix, it would maybe be this. And then you can definitely take that into consideration. Almost always it's the thing that would sway me. And I would go, oh yeah, that's an important part of it, or that's definitely a functional aspect of it that I may or may not be turned off by. So
I think what I like most about doing it that way, because that's usually what I do too, is just kind of read through the 3s and 4s, is that you'll get to see the trends. Like if everybody says that this is a problem with it, but it's not that big of a deal, then probably, yeah, it might be a little bit annoying, but it's not that big of a deal. Or if everybody says that this bed frame can't hold a person that's 110 pounds,
And that's a
then
problem.
probably
Yeah.
that's a problem. And sure, you bought it and it's a kid's bed, but you can't as a parent use their bed when they crawl in your bed. So maybe
Yeah.
you don't want that bed.
yeah.
Yeah. But I think largely I just look at, I do filter products by looking at how many reviews have been
Yeah.
are
popular
reviewed.
they
Okay.
are.
And
Yeah.
so that's what you were doing too, right?
Yeah, I usually pick the first ones I read are the ones with the most reviews.
The mass of
on them.
Yeah.
reviews,
Yeah.
whether
Yeah.
they've all been super positive or
Everything
not.
has like 1,000 reviews, and
Mhm.
then there's one that has like 52,000 reviews.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
That's the product I'm going to click on first
Sure,
and
sure.
read about.
yeah.
Yeah.
The one with
Agreed.
5.
Yeah.
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 But what bothers me sometimes is when people give something a bad review for an ability that it clearly does not have.
Or no explanation.
a review
It's just a
that's not a
1-star review
review.
with no context.
Yeah,
You're
like,
great,
I
thanks.
I agree.
I got an e-reader and I read up on them before I chose which one that I wanted to purchase. And it's one that's not waterproof because that's not something that's terribly important to me. I'm not a huge bath person. So it just wasn't a priority, and I'd rather save a few bucks and get a cheap one that isn't waterproof. And there's so many bad reviews saying like, "Oh, I can't believe it's not waterproof." Like it's never advertised
stated
that it was.
wasn't.
Sometimes I wonder
That's
if
why it's
people are
cheaper.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wonder if people are pre-reviewing some of that stuff and they're just like, "Oh, this is terrible. Why wouldn't it be waterproof?" 1 star. And then they just move on and don't buy it.
Yeah.
That's why I
why
think
would you
Amazon, I don't
review
know
it
if you,
then?
I don't know on
Just
Amazon, for
buy it.
example, if you can review things that you haven't purchased. I think it has to be, they have those things that say
Like
certified
purchase
reviewer or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's ways that you can buy, I'm sure there's ways to buy reviews.
Probably.
And some of the reviews are clearly scam
Mm-hmm.
reviews.
Mhm.
Like, this changed my life. I'm like,
Yeah.
Why?
it's they're chopsticks.
I mean, they could
I mean, I guess maybe I don't know. Let's
think
not dig too deep into that. But
with I mean, just to do a quick comparison though, like contrast with what we talked about before. I would assume though that we generally would be more likely to buy a product that was like had 3.5 to 4.5 stars on
Yes.
on Amazon.
It's
Like
like,
we would be
yeah.
more inclined swayed to like believing that than oh, this movie has like really bad reviews. Well, then I
Mhm.
should never go to it.
Well, and that's because their product reviews it should be an objective kind of truth. It's not just opinion. And that's why what Ashlynn
Mhm.
said about the content of the reviews matters, because you can tell if they're being crazy or
Yeah.
not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But like if something's breaking and they give it a 1 star, then it deserves a 1 star. If a movie gets 23% but 60% people like it, like that's just a matter of opinion.
Yeah, and that's where I think like the movie reviews though, yeah, are more kind of based on art, right?
Mhm.
Which is way more up to like your interpretation or how whatever. But yeah, that line always I think kind of blurs a little bit when it comes to okay, a movie is an experience, but then
Mhm.
also other things are experiences like going to a business or going to a restaurant,
Sure,
yeah.
yeah.
And yet so that is somewhat, subjective there, but I think I feel, or at least I feel we would probably be more inclined to go to a restaurant with higher reviews than one with low reviews, right?
My gut reaction would be to say yes, but I have gone to some, maybe I'll talk about this in regards to that.
Mm-hmm.
I really love what Google reviews is and does for
Mhm.
businesses, and I understand that they're a company and that they're trying to make money and that they are also trying to have people do their legwork for them. I'm not completely blinded to that fact, but I love the way that it happens, and I like that I also get some bounce back for doing so. So after I take so many photos and upload them to reviews, after X number of reviews with those photos in them, I will get 1 free month of this, or I will get $15 off my next purchase on the Google store or something like that. And so I really like those benefits, and I see benefit for my life because I purchase those products and consume those products. And so it's easy for me to go along and fill out missing business hours or update things, or like I said, take photos or post reviews and things like that. And so I have ventured to usually restaurants that have a low review count, for lack of a better way to say that, online, because usually I've had by word of mouth been told that they're a really good restaurant, and just because there's some small hole in the wall and haven't been promoted as such because maybe they don't have the finances or the desire or the knowledge to do so, doesn't mean that the food isn't good quality or the atmosphere isn't great. And so I ventured to some of these places and found them like really decent and have reviewed them as such, and
bumped up their score.
yeah, hopefully, right? and so I see value in those things. And so, but that being said, it is by word of mouth. And so I'm being referred to by other people to these businesses. And so maybe it's not a true, oh, I'll look for a 1-star restaurant and give it a shot, because you're right, it's probably going to make me wary.
And so that is interesting though, that I don't know, would restaurants, if you heard a good positive review of a restaurant from a friend, somebody who was like, this was an amazing experience, does that have the same chance of opportunity to wreck the experience for you? Like if somebody says this was an amazing movie and they hype it up too much?
Oh, no, because then I go to the restaurant expecting to be served well and to be served good food.
But then he's saying if you're not, if it's below your expectations, has that ruined it for you? Like if you went with average expectations and you got average service, you would feel like that was fairly acceptable. But if you go with high expectations,
Yeah.
I think
that has happened to me recently, and I have gone and heard like several people say, "Oh, this restaurant is like really unique and really fun." And I went and I was like, "Nah." I mean, the rug smells like people used to smoke in here for years and years and years, and then they stopped smoking in here, but they've never cleaned the rug.
I know what
And, like,
experience you're talking
yeah,
about.
and so that immediately like dampens my experience.
Yeah.
The food was still good, and like the atmosphere was like a different, unique atmosphere that I'm not accustomed to, and so I weighed that on its own merits. I didn't go, I'm used to this, so of course I like it or hate it. I just kind of went, maybe in the future I'll experience it again here or somewhere else, and then I can weigh that against that experience. But it would definitely.
It can.
It can definitely do the same thing, I would say, for myself.
I think I get frustrated. This is slightly veering from your question, but I get frustrated when people review products as experiences. So reviews, say on Amazon or something, for a product that a company gives, and then they give a 1-star review because they had a bad time getting it in the mail, and then they had a hard time everybody, right?
Like, those people can like buck right off.
Yeah, like it's so frustrating because sure,
they're skewing the
It didn't arrive in time for Christmas, so
Right,
they gave it
like,
a terrible
You need to rate
review.
Amazon, not
Yeah,
the
and-
actual
and-
product.
I ordered it on
maybe-
December 23rd. It's supposed to be 1-day delivery. You live in the middle of nowhere. There's no center near you. Nobody's-
yeah, and maybe their experience with that company was poor, and you want to know about that, but then that should be a review of the company, not of your
the product.
experience getting this product, because I want to know if the product works, not if you couldn't get it or you didn't know how to make it work and nobody was answering your email for 2 days when you expected them to answer you
That
immediately.
was the mailman who was just having a
Yeah,
real bad
or-
day. Like,
or whatever, right? So I get frustrated with those that are like, this is a review for this thing, but they're just crying about how
it
inconvenient
came.
it was.
Okay, so that's interesting, because a criticism of a product or service, and now I'm thinking of experiences I've had, like you were saying, where I had something that I ordered in the mail and it was expensive and it was coming and it wasn't supposed to be left without a signature. And so then my understanding would be that if not left without a signature, that would mean the only course of action would be for it to be taken back to a holding facility. I would be notified and I could go pick it up. I don't want to drive out of my way to go get it, but I'm fine with that if it secures my package. And so then I arrive home and find it just kind of hanging out at my door, and I'm immediately frustrated, of course, because this is an expensive item. And so I call the delivery company, of course, not the company I bought the product
Yeah,
from,
because they have no control over that.
and they do have a control over who they elicit to deliver their products. But at the same time, maybe they don't have that much control. Maybe there's only one person that'll do it because it's too heavy or too big or too expensive or too remote.
Going too far.
Yeah. And so I call up the delivery company and I voice my concerns and I voice my issues. And so in doing so there, I'm also, am I not, in a sense, leaving a review? It's not immortalized anywhere particular, but I'm leaving my review with the customer service person.
It's feedback.
And feedback there.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where, when I asked earlier the question about like kind of what's your views on the etiquette surrounding this kind of a thing, leaving a review is because I feel very strongly about when I'm talking to somebody on the phone that has never seen my package, has not touched the product that I'm inquiring about,
It
is working
0% their fault.
is working for
Yeah.
some 12 levels deep down the pyramid of the pay structure of the company. Like, to me, it's very important that I get my message across that I'm displeased, or maybe I'm pleased. Maybe I'm calling because I'm happy, but we talked
That's
about
unlikely.
how people generally don't do that. They probably put up with this all day long, and I'm not there to make their life more miserable, but I do want my issue solved or figured out or resolved. So it's important to me that it's done in some kind of a firm but gracious way, I guess is how to say it. And I think that that's a very interesting part of the customer feedback process that I've been around other people that have called and complained, and they've gone, I feel, what is like a bit overboard.
They may have got an E on their phone call.
Yeah, explicit.
Yeah, and they always say that they're saving these for customer training purposes. And I don't know where any of my phone calls would ever end up, whether it's on the bad side or the good side of those training purposes. But like these people, I kind of feel sorry for them at the end of the calls that I'm overhearing. I'm just like, they didn't have anything to do with it. Like you can try to get your point across, but you can't abuse somebody that's never seen what you're talking about just because, like, sure, they should have knowledge, and I would expect them to have knowledge of the service, and so I would maybe hold them accountable to that, but I wouldn't, like, it's not their fault, right? It is the company's fault, and the people at the top are still going to make the money, and they're not going to care about your package either. But knowing that, just lay off a little bit, right?
As a customer, your ignorance isn't their fault either. So like what Ashlynn was talking about, when you give a review on something that the product never claimed to have, or an experience that was never offered to you, and as a customer contact agent, you're getting these calls from people that are like, well, why didn't you do this for me? Or why doesn't it have this? Like, what do you want me to do? You want to talk to my manager about this thing that doesn't exist? Like, I don't know what you want from me.
Why would you take the tablet into the bathtub? It's an electronic. Just keep it out. We shouldn't have to do this to you people.
Yeah.
Put it in rice and apologize to yourself.
Go sit in a tub full of rice.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Well, and that's why when you asked us at the beginning whether we'd worked in retail, like, that's why nobody likes it. That's why I don't give it a yay. I say, yes, I have worked in retail.
Or nay.
Because it's terrible. Yeah. It's terrible. People need to be nicer and listen. Because when a person at the till says, I can't do this for you without a receipt, like, they literally can't. They don't have a code that can do it for you. Maybe their manager isn't there. You getting angry and yelling at them isn't going to help. And that's customer feedback, but it's bad feedback. It's not constructive.
You are not constructive, I think, is the best. Yeah, like, that's feedback is feedback, but it is not constructive.
You are not their friend, especially because you're yelling at them. They are not going to be breaking any rules for you anytime soon.
Why would they? For sure.
Yeah. What about question I had when thinking about this topic was just like, how about honesty in reviews?
Like, should we trust people's reviews?
No, like, for yourself. How honest are you in reviews?
Oh, I'm very honest.
Because, like, for me, there's kind of like a weird anyways, but I'll let you guys go first, and then I'll...
Like a disconnect?
Oh, tell us what you mean.
Okay. Well, maybe it'll spark something, and maybe go, oh yeah, I am disingenuous. No.
Oh yeah, I am actually a liar.
No, for me, like, what I think about when it comes to honesty of reviews is in kind of one specific category would be, okay, like my Goodreads. If you were looking at my Goodreads account and you saw the books I read, and Ashlynn comments on this quite a bit, she's like, great, you keep giving 5-star reviews
to books he didn't.
No.
Okay. You can say
they were good.
Hear them out.
They were good. And so I was like, good experience. 5 stars.
They were good. I just didn't like them.
I won't. No. Like, I like, and most books that I pick, I actually tend to really enjoy. I could because I'm swayed by the masses and have looked and been recommended by people being like, this book was amazing and all that. But, so I do that. Another area where I also wouldn't be like 100% genuine, maybe in some regard, would just be when it comes to reviewing something like that's a product for a company that like needs that leg up or something, where I'm like, nah, I'll give it 10 stars. Like, it might not be a 10-star game, but I'm like I just rated a game on Board Game Geek and gave it 10 stars. Is it a 10-star game? I don't know. But I really enjoyed my experience of it. It was a great solo game. I had a great time playing it. It's by one of the guys who does the guy who does the Tiny Epic series for a different line. And it was great. So I gave it 10 stars. Should I have given it a 7.5? Maybe. But I also wanted to give it a boost of a 10.
Okay. So would Ashlynn have given it a 7.5, or were you
I don't
just?
think Ashlyn's played
I
it.
haven't played it.
Okay, so it was you thinking about like, where does this scale in? Because that's the other thing about the reviews is that
Well, yeah, there's a
the
scale,
scale's just
right?
arbitrary.
Yeah.
It's 1 to 5
Or 1 to
1
10.
to 10. And how do you give it a 10? Like, is 10 in your mind
10 has
meets
to
and
be
exceeds
perfect.
10
your
is Jesus.
expectation? Okay.
No, it's not actually. And
Yeah.
so that's why, like,
Well,
I gave it a 10.
I
I don't
treat
know if
a
it's
lot of reviews like that where 10 would have to, like, the experience or the item would probably have to be like above and beyond what I
okay.
expected or blow my mind.
That number
right?
affects
So-
my decisions, though. If
Whether
it's a 10
or a 5.
yeah, if it's a 10, it needs to be perfect. But if it's a 5 out of 5, it doesn't need to be perfect
Okay.
to be a 5.
Because there's more weight in between.
that's fair. That's
Probably.
fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another thing that is on this topic. Brandon Sanderson, an author that is beloved by most people here on this podcast. And one
Notably, not one.
Yeah,
and one of us has only read one of his books, but still really loves him and is a fan and has bought so many of his books.
Has he read them? Another good
no.
question.
But
to
I have
ask.
listened to his podcast, and he's a great personality. Anyways, but one of the things that he does is he will review other media and books, but he only, if he's giving a rating, he gives it 5 stars. He always does.
Okay.
Because it's a book that or a movie that's
only-
not perfect. He will say that this isn't a perfect movie, but for him it was a great experience, and so he was like, nah, I will give it. I'll give it a 5 because that's how it was a 5-star experience for me.
Okay.
I hate that.
Yeah,
I hate it.
And here, well,
Also because he's rating a product as an experience.
Well, but if it's a book, it's both a product
Well, it
and
is
an
an
experience. If it's a movie, it's
It's a
both a
movie.
product
Okay,
and an
yeah.
experience.
Does he give at least a 3-paragraph description of
I'm pretty
what
sure he gives
likes?
a very detailed review.
See that? Okay, that's
about
fair. Okay, you can write 5.
And-
My experience was great. There are some things I didn't like. Here are the things, and then it's a review of both the product and the experience.
And I think a part of it does come from that, like, he is in the industry of writing books. He's not going to give a book a 3-star review because then it's like, oh, you're the author that Brandon Sanderson gave a 3-star review of your book.
yeah, which is brutal.
Yeah. So there's that as well. But I don't know. There's something to that in terms of being like, this was a great experience.
That being
Here we go.
said, a lot of early reviews for movies do have things like 4.5 stars reviews, which is really interesting that I've seen in marketing.
Okay.
Where on the movie trailer, at the end of the trailer or during the trailer, they'll have this magazine said it was this like 5 out of 5, and this magazine said it was 4.5 stars. And it caught me a couple of years ago a little bit unaware, because why are they proud to put 4.5 stars if they have all of these other reviews that are 5 stars? Is it because the 4.5 star review is coming from like a very credible source, and they know that to leave that out, people would be asking, well, what did they rate it? Oh, they're cherry picking now. But somehow 4.5 is still good enough. But I don't know if I've seen 4-star reviews in trailers before. That's maybe just a tangent, but
Yeah.
I tried to be as honest as possible unless I'm lazy. And
but you're not lying when you're lazy. You're just skipping the text boxes when you're lazy, right? You're not giving 5s just to get through it, or are you literally doing that? And
No. If I'm being lazy, I'll just give the star review that I think it needs, rather than
Right.
write
The
the
one it
description
deserves.
of
Okay.
what.
Yeah.
I don't know what it deserves.
You know what thing gets me is the title of reviews on websites, where they make you
Oh,
do a star
yes.
and then a review, and then they like a title which is like a short synopsis of your review. And I was like,
I just always have a pun.
It says it in the review.
You always have a pun.
I
would always put
sometimes
pun.
have.
Every time.
It's got to have a pun.
That's exhausting. How do you think of
me?
all these puns?
Oh, I thought you were for the readers. For me, it's
Maybe.
it's life-giving.
Oh my goodness. I do not need to be clever. What a...
How do you come up with a pun in 30 seconds?
Huh?
Yeah, you want the survey to be
you're talking
30
about
seconds
surveys?
long. Sure, survey review.
Reviews, I'll put puns. Surveys, nah. That's kibble. That's nothing.
So you have much less respect for surveys
I have much
than
less
you do
respect for surveys.
reviews.
You do take a long time to write your Goodreads reviews.
Yeah, you gotta. Oh man, you should have seen my review of Genesis.
The book of the Bible?
Yeah, it had spoilers.
I don't think it had spoilers.
That's Snake, I tell
been
you.
out for like 1,000 years.
They don't tell you this when you start reading it, but it's part 1 of 66.
And it doesn't quite have an ending.
Bait and switch you.
That depends on who you're talking to. It might just be one of 5.
Yeah, at the end of
It's like the
bit of a
Circle series
cliffhanger.
that ends where it began. The Tree of Life, it's there again.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, spoilers. Spoilers on the Bible.
Speaking of punny reviews, I recall leaving a comment on a review for one of the pools in the city, and somebody made some spam comment about how the water was
Too wet.
or something like that. It was, it's just one of those humorous reviews that somebody would just like having a blast with.
Yeah.
And so then I commented on it and I said, oh, that might have been because you showered
Did you shower before you go in the
went
pool?
into the pool, which you are supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then so I said, next time you go, try eating something with a lot of salt content before you go in to absorb that extra moisture.
Yeah, that will help.
Just like spammed it.
No,
But-
it won't help.
Can't discriminate.
How do you guys feel about fake reviews? Like ones that are obviously satirical.
I don't think I've come
Oh.
across that many.
Really?
I think they're hilarious. I mean,
I think they're funny, but they're so not useful and
kind
kind of a waste of my time.
I kind of wish there was a way to have it be counted outside of the star count or
Yeah.
the 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10. Like there was a button that said this is a satirical review, and then it wouldn't leave any stars and wouldn't adjust or inflate.
and
the
also then it would be obvious
actual-
to stupid people.
yeah.
Because I can't imagine leaving a satirical review that I think is so obvious that it's a satire and then having people be like, yeah, I didn't buy it because of those things too. And you're an idiot. Like,
Well, I mean, you can't monitor everything that extensively. I do find it interesting that, have you noticed we've gotten to the subculture of society where we're reviewing other people's reviews. So
Oh,
on
boy.
Amazon, if
Oh,
you
yeah,
like a
with the thumbs
review,
up or
you
thumbs
can
down.
find it helpful or not.
yeah.
Like what they did in The Gladiator.
Yeah. I mean,
We're bringing it back.
It's exactly the same. You're just
Feed that review to
voting
the
on it.
lions.
Oh boy.
Right. But I do find things like that helpful. I just think that it's very interesting.
I will
how-
definitely thumbs down the came with, the shipping box was busted or something.
Oh yeah,
For
yeah.
sure.
Well, and I mean,
Cast that to the den.
and that's where I find like the 3 and 4 star reviews, like Holly, you were saying, that are a little bit helpful because it'll show you the common denominators in what makes it a 3 or 4 star review for people. I will often go along and give those a thumbs up and boost them to the top of the review for that section. Not because I'm trying to inflate that review is more important than others, but it's usually one of the first handful I've seen. And that's how it's made
and
it
it
to
was
the
more
top.
helpful.
And it was helpful
That
because
was
it
the
had a
point of the
photo where it
thumbs up.
explained a little bit better.
Yeah.
And so I want people to, I can only hope that people do their own research. Like if you really want an e-reader, then you do your research on that e-reader. And if it says that there's no backlight, it's just one of those white screens with black text or whatever, then you don't get it and complain when there's no backlight.
Yeah.
Like, you just do your
I
research.
can't read this in the dark.
Yeah.
Why can't I read it in the dark? Because it's dark.
Yeah.
When I mentioned at the top of the episode about how I was curious as to what the percentages actually were in regards to those surveys at the bottom of receipts or on the backs of receipts or in the emails that would let you enter to win things, and what the I don't think I'd ever know what the response rate of those would be. I'm sure they're enormous, but like what the probability of me winning those was. I started something in 2021 in January where I was going to go for the whole year. I was going to keep all of the printed receipts that I got from businesses, and any of them that had reviews attached to the bottom or the back of the receipt or an email. I would log it. And so what I did is I kept a log of the receipt type and the location it was. So let's say McDonald's. So it'd be McDonald's receipt. What is the type? The type is, I think I probably put it as meal or snack if it was a snack item, just to kind of differentiate. And then the prize. And so then the prize would be like a free food item or a $1 upgrade, or kind of like a generic sampling of what the prizes were. And then I had a column for whether I won it or not. And I considered it a win if you had to enter a contest and be won for it. And I considered it an earn if you just received an item automatically by finishing the contest or by finishing the survey, regardless of what the item was. And so I kept track of that. I did really good for the first 5 months, and then
And you put this on TikTok, right?
I did start to put it on
And
TikTok.
you got popular.
You did.
Well, the first one had like 52 or 1,000 or something
Yeah.
around that number watches, or there was some engagement on it too, but mostly I think that was just the watch count. And then all of my videos after that only had like 1 or maybe 200 at the very most. in
You got
each
a bunch
them.
of followers too.
I
though,
did
that
get a bunch
first
of
one.
random followers, and ultimately I didn't follow through for the entire year. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work
Yeah.
to keep it up, but I did do just shy of 6 full months of it throughout last year. And I'm obviously not going to go through it all right now, but I just kind of brought it up to see, because I don't remember.
Give us the stats.
I also gave the duration of the actual duration of each of the surveys that I took. I started a stopwatch and then started the survey and then did the accurate time, the actual time, and then I did an average time for each month as well. And so then that was telling me month over month, based on those types of receipts, what my time was.
Did you get better at your surveys as you went?
I
Did you get
definitely
faster.
I definitely got faster.
Nice.
I definitely got faster at them, and then I started to realize which ones were going to take me a while, and things like the Loblaws ones, like Superstore, or Independent Grocer, those ones
Took you a while.
take like, well, let me find
Not worth it.
find the numbers.
Not worth it.
So January through like the 6 months that I did, the highest month for receipt counts that I had was 24. And the lowest receipt count in a month was 17. The average survey time, my lowest average survey time across all of those months, and this is just compared within the month itself. So I'm looking at each of the 6 months total times, and the lowest of those total times is 3 minutes 10 seconds.
Nice.
That's an average survey time.
Yeah.
And then my very first month, January, was the longest. My average survey time was 5 minutes 10 seconds, and there's milliseconds in there too, but that's kind of irrelevant. So
That's a long survey.
yeah, when you look over at some of these surveys,
They need to provide snacks for that kind of a survey.
listen to these actual survey times. These are in January. I got a Cineplex survey that I did online where they ask you questions about, well, now I know they ask you questions about absolutely everything that they could possibly do. Same with Superstore. But my Cineplex survey that month was 10 minutes, 15 seconds. My Superstore survey was 9 minutes and 46 seconds.
Wow.
My other Superstore survey that month earlier was 8 minutes and 50 seconds. I'm guessing that the longer ones were ones where I actually had issues or things that stood out to me that I typed in the text box, and that's why it takes longer.
while.
So this was like just showing me,
Well, and you're not a not opinionated person.
yeah, no, it's fair, and I thought that it was a reasonable thing for me to do, because I would be truthful and I would have opinions, and then I also wanted to just kind of see, how many things I would win, because that's all that really matters, right?
How many things did you win?
My total for those 6 months that I did it, I won 0 of the winning or non-winning
We
prizes.
got no money.
So
I don't remember any money
we
from
got
this
we got
project.
zero, we got 0 money.
A lot of time.
I
no
wanted
money.
more money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the instant win prizes that I got as a result,
Yeah.
I got 56 in 6 months,
Ah.
and I didn't.
How much money were they worth?
I
I wasn't sure if you'd have this calculated,
I
but
do-
it looks like you do.
I don't have it calculated.
Oh shoot! I thought you were super prepared.
But somebody else did ask me that question, and I did a calculation then. That was in March. And I came to the conclusion that the average value of what those things were worth was something like $2.50 or $3.
Okay.
Because a lot of them are just like meal upgrades, which
Yeah.
often happen to be like $1.29 at
Yeah.
the kind of at
Right.
the most.
Or like
But
a
then
free
some of them are
Blizzard
like
or
some of them are
something,
like
or-
well, some of them are a free ice cream, which
Right.
could be a couple of dollars depending on
Yeah.
where you
Well,
buy
a
it
free
from.
Blizzard would be
That's
like
like $5.
$6.
Yeah, there's no way I'm getting a free Blizzard. for any of these things.
Yeah.
They give out dilly bars way
Ah.
before they would give
That's
out
true.
But
Blizzards.
that brings the average up, and so it's
Maybe
like
a cheeseburger.
$2.75 even as just a rough estimate. So what's 56 times $2.75? I mean, that's over $100 in value of
You're rich.
freebies, right? Well,
So
except that they've all
$100
expired. I held on to them for nothing, right? So, but yeah, it was just really interesting. I just wanted to see kind of I did want to win something, but I also
wanted to win something.
but I wanted to see what the value behind my responses were, because I think I had this idea that a lot less people actually fill out these surveys than do.
Mhm.
And I don't know that that's true at all. Like now I'm very certain that that's not as true. And I had people telling me like, oh, I know somebody that's won several of those things. I should have asked for receipts because like I didn't win any of them. And I only did 6 months. Maybe if I'd kept going, maybe in December it would have paid off because people are too busy to do receipts in December or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe.
But we're approaching these customer satisfaction surveys and reviews in a trustful manner. Like we're doing it and being relatively truthful,
I see.
and we're also expecting that the companies are doing the same thing. They may or may not be, and
Yeah.
Bigger the company, the higher the chances that they are not.
Well, and I did an element of reading through the not contest rules and regulations, but like the FAQ sections about the surveys I was filling out, because I was curious, what are the actual odds and how long do I need to wait to know whether or not I won? And so there could be something in there that's just like, if we don't get enough entries, we just won't draw that month, or if we get too many and we can't possibly go through them all, or some kind of
Some like loopholes.
loophole or
Yeah,
contingency
so
like
they
that.
don't have to do the
So
work.
I can't say that I read any of that, but I also didn't read it through every single time. So I mean, we're
Corporate consumerism.
we're
Capitalism.
Yeah.
there's an element of trust built into these things, and like I trust myself, but I can't really trust the other party. So
Right.
there's that.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to leave us a review,
Leave us some feedback.
Yes. We want to
And
read your feedback.
we don't mind it if you are slightly dishonest like I am.
Only if
stars
it's
is-
skewed up.
yes, only if it rounds
Yeah.
up for
Don't
sure.
say you received this podcast damaged to your house. And also don't say that it did not lull you to sleep, because we did not make that promise.
No, we sure didn't.
Somebody will rate our podcast and be like, well, my podcast player kept having like crashing. I hate the Housebound podcast.
Yeah.
We did want to try something different for this next season, and that will hopefully be serviced very well by this use temporarily of this fancy Rodecaster Pro recording device. And that is create some longer form episodes. They will be less often than we've done in the past, but I think this allows us to create more honest, truthful reactions without the lagging of the internet being involved with it. And, maybe it'll work out, maybe it won't. And
Hey, Chris, you're muted.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I actually muted myself by accident
Did
there.
you?
I didn't mean to do that at all. Never mind. We're scrapping this idea. We're going back to recorders in separate house, separate households, separate rooms. But yeah, hopefully this is more enjoyable. Definitely leave us some feedback and rate us if you've got a rating system. I think maybe iTunes might be the only place that you could maybe give us a rating. And I'm not sure about any other service, but you can definitely recommend us to other people. We would be.
And
you can review us on Facebook.
yeah, that's great. And also, we sometimes actually give stuff away.
That's true.
At the end of the year, we've done it twice now. No promises that we'll do it again this next year, but it's a great way for you to interact with us. And
Yeah.
we love you guys.
Your chances are only better than currently you do not receive anything from us. Well, I guess besides the podcast. So if that's gift enough for you, then you're welcome.
If you would just like to hear our voices, then that's okay.
Yes, totally fine. In the meantime, you can keep in contact with us by emailing at us at thehouseboundpodcast@gmail.com. As I mentioned, we are on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, and we are on Twitter. You can find us, obviously, wherever you're listening to us currently, but our home base is anchor.fm/housebound. And from there, you can link over to, I believe we have almost a dozen, if not a dozen, different services, including the more popular ones like Anchor and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Spotify.
It's like we're famous, but not.
I know. We're famous to less than 20 people.
Yeah.
You were one of the 20.
Well, we're for sure famous to about 20 to 25 people based on the metrics, depending on which season that they're listening to. But thank you for listening in. Thanks for sticking with us.
No, like, I mean, when it comes to, you know, like the mailmen outside, like they do a really hard job and sometimes they just need something to really pick them up. And so you could just leave, you know, a sign on your mailbox just saying, check out the Housebound Podcast. And it's a gift that keeps giving.
A recommend is not a give.
Okay, for real though?
That went a different direction than I thought it would. I thought it was going to be like 3 out of 5 stars.
Ben,
I feel like that's
you're
the end. That's the
barely
end
meeting
there.
expectations.
If
Sorry?
you're a mail carrier, you probably need podcast recommendations. Can you imagine walking that much all the time with no podcast running in your head? I think it would be helpful.
Are they
for them.
allowed to have headphones in?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Can you imagine?
I can imagine that they might not be allowed, and then
No.
that would be disastrous,
I
I'm
think
sure.
no one would follow that rule. And how would they enforce it?
Spies.
The trees are listening.
Their boss in like a full suit just like does one of those like full like pop out of the bush